disassembling the lies and reassembling the truth. This is Cognitive Dissonance with Misty Winston on today's News Talk Radio, TNT.
Censorship and the war against free speech has always been something those who seek truth have had to contend with. But in recent years, we have seen an unprecedented level of censorship from every available platform. It seems that there are very few outlets willing to allow conversation from outside the establishment-approved narratives. Nothing has made that more apparent than the COVID years. We've seen numerous people be demonetized, smeared, and deplatformed for daring to question the science. But we've also seen similar reactions surrounding Russiagate and things like the Hunter Biden laptop story. And it's not just the overt censorship that we can all see happening. There's also a sort of soft censorship that happens with things like algorithms, recommendations, and shadow banning. At a time when we need truth-seeking media more than ever, that makes it incredibly difficult for independent media to gain a foothold or any traction. Today, we are joined by three independent content creators who have all experienced various forms of censorship. Indy is the founder of IndieNews.Network, who also hosts various shows over there on INN, including How Did We Miss That? And Friends of Indie Left. Steve Poikonen and Craig Jardula are both the co-hosts of AM Wakeup. Steve also co-hosts the show Slow News Day, and Craig is also the co-host of the Convo Couch. Welcome to the show, fellas. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Misty. Love you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so Pasta, I want to start with you, Craig. Sorry.
You call me Pasta. I respond to both.
Craig is his government name.
That's fair. So I wanted to start with you because I think you've probably been in this space the longest of all of us. And I know that there has been a significant shift in the level of censorship since you got started. Tell us a little bit about the Convo Couch, how it got started, and what it was like back then trying to jump into the independent media space.
I don't think that the censorship of today was a thing back then. It came slowly after. I mean, they still had our eyes on us, but I think there was a little bit more opportunity to get the ball rolling. But shortly after, it seems like the flood doors closed, or whatever you want to call those kind of things. And now the censorship has been amped up, and there's very little which you can get out there that you want to talk about, that won't be censored, if that makes any sense whatsoever. It seems like any subject that you are a little dissenting towards the mainstream narrative is going to get you demonetized, shadow banned, shut down, silenced, all of the above. So I think we did get right in before the mass censorship took place, but it was very short-lived, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure. I think that you jumped in right before the Russiagate shenanigans, yes?
Right before.
Yeah. And I think Russiagate was really, at least for me, in my observation, Russiagate was really kind of the kicking off point of the crazy amounts of censorship that we're seeing. And I know, Steve, on Slow News Day, obviously, for those people who are unaware, Slow News Day, and also AM Wakeup, very often tackle controversial subject matter in a real way. They talk to people who are, considered to be kind of outlaws in the establishment narrative space. So, I mean, what has your experience been just in general from Slow News Day? Because when you started off, you were kind of jumping in at a time where the censorship was already kind of kicking off, but it hit you immediately.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Well, pretty much right as soon as we got monetized, we were demonetized on YouTube. I think I had maybe 2.5 months of that sweet AdSense money. That a content creator with a shadow banned channel and 1,200 subscribers or whatever it is to achieve monetization, the sweet AdSense money you get at those numbers. And no, ever since it's been trying to find ways to work around that with the Action for Assange stuff. I mean, It's when you put the name of it in the title of the show, the thing that's going to get you censored, you know right off the bat that it's going to be an uphill battle. And we have covered every censorable subject on Slow News Day and had extensive conversations with people who've dived deep into research on it for, in some cases, decades. We've talked to people that you're not supposed to talk to
Right.
And do it frequently. In fact, I'm becoming one of those people that you're not supposed to talk to now as a result of it. And I'm okay with that because we're self-hosting. We're on platforms like Rockfin. We're getting on alternative platforms throughout. We have the PeerTube instance. You can go directly and download for free any episode that we've made. We're not selling anything, which makes us particularly dangerous because the people that get to keep their channels all have a product, whether it's a politician or a cure or, what have you. We don't have any of those things. So it's I don't know. If we don't go our own way, we're getting eliminated way quicker.
Oh, for sure.
The story's supposed to be the product, Steve, and that's what's changed in media over the years, and that's why, again, I'm such a fan of Wakeup, independent media, and the independent journalists that are chasing the story for the nature of chasing the story. Again, also like what the Convo Couch does, and goes all over the world to do it.
Yes. And we need more of it. Like, that's what I'm saying. We right now, we need truth-seeking media now more than ever. And I think that that's why there's such a desperate clampdown. And Indy, I'm glad you jumped in here because INN is relatively new. And so you jumped into this at a terrible time, my friend, a really terrible time to try to kick off a new channel. So what are some of the hurdles that you see that new content creators are trying to suffer through? Because everybody on INN is having a hard time trying to gain a foothold and build up an audience because of all of the shadow banning and the algorithms and all of that stuff.
That's the key. It's algorithmic suppression. It's also the fact that the market has been flooded in the last couple of years with a ton of content and new channels and new perspectives. A lot of it corporate funded and with the backing of some type of money that's going to pay for advertising, that's going placement, that's going to have some type of sponsorship actually as well. And similar to Steve and to what's going on, we don't take sponsorship. We are operating completely independently, and with the only stake is to get to the truth and to get to the bottom of the story, so that we can filter through the motivations and find out why are people saying what they're saying. And what we found is that there are big corporations and billionaires that are funding a new lane of independent media, for example, that are trying to suck up some of the airspace that our lane would normally take up and redefine what independent media actually is, even though it's technically billionaire funded, or it's NED or USAID funded, for example, like Bellingcat. We see all these things.
Yes. Yeah. And that kind of leads me into a great a line of questioning here, because there is kind of this where it has the veneer of being independent. And there's a lot of it, especially in leftist spaces. I mean, to be fair, I don't pay a ton of attention to independent right-leaning channels other than people that I know, like, Clint and Reed, and all of those people, and antiwar.com and stuff like that. But I see it a lot in the independent left space, where there is kind of this, the professional managerial class of independent journalism, where we see people, I'll drop names, I guess, like, The Hill, and Breaking Points and all of those people, where they kind of give the veneer of being independent. They're very much not, though. And that is, as Andy just said, is really kind of, it really does make it difficult for those of us who are genuinely independent to gain a foothold, because they do have, the ability and the funding to, advertise, and they have these fancy studios, and they're able to, pay a staff to do things like editing and things like that. And I don't know. What do you think that means that people fall for that, though? Because to me, it seems very apparent that these are not independent outlets.
I'm going to give you my theory on this, and I'm going to give you the couple of examples. It is the corporate press, 100%. Yes. This is the mainstream media. We've identified them as the mainstream media throughout, because the professional left is getting the more and more and more of them, if not the vast majority, are getting their information from that sphere, from those guys, even down to like the Brie Grays and the Intercept world, the alumni from that outlet, all of their podcasts. That's the mainstream media for our generation, for millennials, it's going to be for Zoomers. If not, it'll be 30 seconds at a time, and that'll just be news as people's attention spans get smaller and smaller and smaller. But without a doubt, it's the corporate press, the Young Turks, the people that pioneered this business model is the mainstream media. They were for a number of years, at least, when they had more views than the corporate press. Joe Rogan is the mainstream media. He gets 10.5 million downloads every time he releases an episode. That's almost 4 times more people that are watching or listening to Tucker Carlson at any given point. That's the mainstream.
On Spotify, which is one of the largest platforms there is right now for consuming media. Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, just because the parameters have changed a little bit, all of the content's the same. And there's that satellite industry, the barnacle, quote unquote, independent media that just clings to the underbelly of the corporate press that doesn't do their own thinking, that might have a couple of things going for them in terms of bucks or looks or whatever, but all they are repeaters, and it's just leading people back into the exact same lanes of failed systems that have been driven down into the skulls of people through the original corporate press in the first place.
Yeah. 100%. And it's frustrating to witness because, again, like I said, to me, it's very apparent. These people are obvious. But so many people kind of buy into it. And I don't know if it's just, I guess it is kind of a popularity contest. Pasta, what do you think about this? Because, we've seen our audiences grow. We all share a great many of the same people in our audiences. There's a lot of crossover, and they're all very intelligent people. And, they're fantastic. But it's very frustrating to me that so many people are getting sucked back into that same, kind of news cycle, as Steve just said.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think there's something positive about what's going on right now. I just kind of want to point out because I'm in this kind of weird thinking space right now as we're having this conversation about what really is news, what is the mainstream news. I think there's a lot of crossover emerging. I mean, I don't really look at Joe Rogan as like the news. Remember, he started that channel talking about marijuana, and as he started discovering stuff, he brought his audience with him. So, I mean, do you really kind of classify that as mainstream media news? I don't know. But the thing that I really kind of that gives me a lot of hope is the fact that when these independent media shows are starting right now on the left or on the right or wherever they're at, they equate the business model into play about what they can and what they cannot say. So like us who have been living in the space where, the reason why we have been demonetized is because we say what we want to say. There's obviously nobody paying us to say what we want to say. So I think that when we do come out of this, we're going to still have our uniqueness. We're going to have that label of these were the truth tellers. These are the guys the guys and gals, I should say, excuse me, that, said what they thought they should say. They didn't incorporate a business model that said, hey, we can only make money on YouTube if we don't say X, Y, and Z. So let's not say X, Y, and Z. So if we do come to a point where the censorship, we flip the table on it, we have less censorship, something happens. I don't know what that is. I can't identify some type of news revolution of sorts, or the masters that be who control things, they lose their grip. I think we will come out ahead of this, for being who we are and being consistent. So at least we have the situation that when people do incorporate a business model, they incorporate in the fact that they cannot say certain things. So we still keep our uniqueness. If that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from, and it's frustrating because listen, it's not cheap to do this. Like, I think a lot of people are unaware of how demanding it is to create content. And Indy, you can speak to this because you do literally all of the things. You edit and you make graphics and you host shows and you help other people host shows and you produce and you do all of the things. And it is incredibly time consuming. And there's this kind of ridiculous notion out there that if you, do ask for compensation through donors, and not like corporate donors, but just your viewers, the people who enjoy watching your show, that somehow that makes you a grifter. And I think that that's absurd. It's ridiculous. Indy, what do you think about that? Because again, I don't know if anybody works harder than you do.
Thank you. There are a ton of places where you can put your money. There are a ton of platforms that you can actually do for free. I think there's a ton of resources out there too. But it is expensive time wise. I think that user funded and corporate and audience funded, media is the way to go. I think that when people are consuming a show, I think the way that Steve introduces the value-based system.
I want to talk about that.
I will steal that definitely from him because I'll give him a ton of credit. The way that he operates the channel, the network, everything that he's been doing, I think is along lines. Again, you're accountable to nobody but your audience, and you're free to do the show that you want to do because your audience believes in what you're bringing to the table. And you can ask the hard questions without being concerned about advertisers or, again, you just have to keep your audience happy and continue to do the show that you want to do. And they're going to stick with you. That's what I found. And again, there's so many platforms and so many tools, and connecting with people that are on those platforms is critical. Learning from them and observing what they do and having conversations and reaching out and engaging and asking questions. I mean, I've learned so much from so many people on these platforms just by reaching out and sending a DM. Hey, can you tell me how you're doing this? And everyone's super nice and they're really engaging and they want to share. They really do. Everybody's got great knowledge about this stuff.
I got to say something, Misty, too.
Please, go ahead.
But it's so funny because my other co-host and business partner for my other outlet, the Convo Couch, right? So she, if you don't know, Fiorella Isabel is in Moscow working for RT now, and she gets ready to do a segment, and then, she has help, somebody writing the script and somebody else that does her hair and makeup and somebody else that's checking with something. And she she called me the other day. She's like, man, you can't believe sometimes like the stuff that we have to do as independent outlets. We have to do it all. We have to wear all hats. We have to, write our stuff, do our homework, do our research. And for a guy like me, it's so hard having two brilliant co-hosts. And when I mean brilliant, I mean brains. You know what I'm saying? They can cover so much ground and just trying to keep up with them. But yeah, I mean, what we have to do to keep this going. And the fact is, that we do have to ask for money and whatnot because we're not getting all that funding like these other big outlets are getting. Sometimes it can put a damper on things, but I mean, it is awesome the fact that we do have this model. This is the model we have where people can reach out and put us in play. So I think there's something great about that as well.
No, for sure. And yes, Fee is absolutely right. Like, for example, just at TNT, I mean, I have a producer now, you know what I mean, who takes care of, which I'm terrible at tech stuff. If you know me, you know that. I am horrible. And so having somebody to do all of that for you, it is so much, it makes it so much easier, so much less stressful. And independent content creators don't have the luxury of having a producer or a writer, or, whatever it is, a camera person. I mean, even just, being able to go out on the ground and have a camera person so you don't have to set up and film your own stuff. I mean, that's all, it's a game changer. And there are so many people out there who are, literally trying to do it all on their own as an independent content creator. And it is exhausting. It really can be genuinely exhausting. And then when you're also relying solely on viewer funding, which, listen, I think everybody is very aware of the fact that people are in kind of an economic crisis for the most part across the board. And so that's really difficult to even just ask people, to send you, a couple bucks a month. I always feel very guilty asking for those sorts of things. But if we want to have truth, we have to be willing to support independent media however we can, even if it's not financially. I say this all the time. Even if you can't support financially, sharing the work is massive because we get, because of all of the shadow banning and censorship that we face. Okay, so we have to take a quick break, but everybody hang tight. We're going to be right back with more. We're going to talk some more about censorship right here on TNT Radio.